What would you do if the one person how isn't supposed to see? You saw everything. The house was silent, tuzelant, the kind of silence that presses against your eardrums, making every breath sound like a betrayal. My husband Mark was away on another business. Trifus third this month. The excuses were always the same. Networking is everything in real estate, babe. You know that, but truth, we had stopped being a priority long ago. I told myself I didn't care, that I was used to the loneliness, but that night, the emptiness noted at me harder than usual. The wine helped. 2 glasses in the sharp edges of my frustration softened. The third glass made me reckless. I didn't hear his footsteps. The TV was on, some old rom-com playing in the background, volume low, just noise to fill the void. I wasn't even paying attention. My thoughts were elsewhere, tangled in memories of when Mark used to look at me the way he now looked at closing deals, and then movement. Creak on the staircase. My breath hitched. The house was supposed to be empty, but it wasn't. He was there. Miss Stepson, home from college for the weekend, stood frozen in the doorway. His stark eyes locked onto mine, wide with shock, and I realized, with a jolt of horror, that he had seen everything. That glass of wine slipped from my finger, shattering on the hardwood, but the sound barely registered, because in that third beat of silence, something far more dangerous than shame passed between us, understanding, and in that moment, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. This wasn't how it was supposed to go. Jason wasn't even my son, not really. Mark had brought him into our lives when he was 12. I had tried in those early years to be a mother to him, but grief and teenage rebellion had built walls between us. By the time he left for college, we were little more than polite strangers, under the same roof. Yet now Ash stood there, his expression unreadable. I felt something shift, not desire. No, it wasn't that simple. It was power. The way Haas' gaze flickered, the way his throat worked as he swallowed. He was just as shaken as I was, but beneath the shock there was something else, and that was far more dangerous. We didn't speak nothin'. He turned away, first muttering something about forgetting his phone charger. Flimsy excuse. We both knew the truth. He had seen me in a moment I could never take back. I should have let it go back. I didn't, because later that night AIS lay in bed staring at the ceiling, Miskin still humming with adrenaline. I heard its soft knock on my door. I could have pretended to be asleep. I could have told him to leave, but I didn't. Open the door, and in the dim glow of the hallway light, I saw something in Jason's eyes that mirrored my own loneliness. That waste moment I made the first mistake. This is where the story really begins, because what followed wasn't just an affair. It was a collision of guilt, obsession, and consequences I never saw coming, and by the time I realized how far I'd fallen, it was already too late. That's what I tell myself in the quiet hours before dawn, when the weight of what I've done presses down so hard I can bear a liberty. But the truth, maybe she was inside me all along, the woman capable of betrayal. Maybe she was just waiting for the right moment to break free. But let's start from the beginning. My name is Evelyn Carter, or at least it was before it became Evelyn Hartley. The name change came with marriage, like so many other things I gave up without realizing. The coast. I was 34 when I met Mark, a divorced real estate broker with a sharp smile and a son he barely knew how to parent back. Then I was flattered by his attention. He was successful, confident, everything my ex wasn't. When he introduced me to Jason, a sullen 12-year-old with his mother's eyes, he thought, this is my chance to have the family I always wanted. How naive that sounds now. The first cracks appeared sooner than I expected. Mark was never cruel, just absent. His business trips grew longer, his excuses piled up. You understand, don't you, Evie? This deal could set us up for life, but the life we were building felt emptier with every passing month. And then there was Jason. First I tried, packed his lunches, went to his soccer games, listened when he slammed doors, and said, you're not my mom. But grief is a stubborn thing. It doesn't care about good intentions. By the time he left for college, we had settled into a careful distance. He called Mark, not me. He came home for holidays, but we barely spoke. I told myself it didn't hurt. Delighted. The night Jason saw me, I wasn't thinking about him. I wasn't thinking about much at all, just the wine, the loneliness, the way Mark's side of the bed hadn't been slept in for 6 nights. I didn't plan for what happened, but when Jason knocked on my door later that night, his voice tight with something I didn't recognize, I should have sent him away instead. I let him in, not physically, not then. Butento, a space far more dangerous. Westhold, talk about what happened. His words hung between us, heavy with. I could have played dumb, could have pretended it was nothing, but way he looked at me, equal parts nervous and determined, told me he wouldn't let me, so I did the worst possible thing. I told the truth. I'm sorry, you saw that a muscle in his jaw. You don't have to apologize. Anthony quietly, I get why you'd be lonely. That was the first time I realized he wasn't a kid anymore, and that realization terrified me. What happened next wasn't sudden, it was a series of smell, seemingly innocent moments lingering. Glances in the kitchen, accidental touches when passing the salt late night. Conversations where we pretended we were just two people, not stepmother and stepson, each one a step closer to the edge, each one easier to justify than the last, until the night. Hesed, you deserve better than him. Andy, in my weakness, let myself believe him. Way, I let myself need his attention. Way, I ignored the voice screaming, this will destroy you. The way I convinced myself just for a little while that I wasn't doing anything wrong, but universe has a way of balancing theskels, and our reckoning came sooner than either of us expected. I learned that truth the hard way. Started with 8 text, he's coming home early, 3 words that sent ice through my veins. Mark wasn't supposed to be back for 2 more days, but there it was, his message lighting up my phone, casual as a death sentence. Meeting wrapped up, be home by 9. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering in my throat. We hadn't planned it this. That's what I told myself, anyway, that it just happened. Another night after much wine, but the excuses rang hollow now. Jason sat up. What's wrong? He couldn't speak. Just handed him the phone. His face changed. Not guilt, not yet, just calculation. We have 6 hours, he said. Asif, that fixed anything. We cleaned like washed the sheets, opened windows, sprayed linen mist, like it could erase the scent of what we'd done. Jason dressed quickly, his movement sharp with tension. He won't know I wanted to believe him, but when he reached for me own last time, I flinched. Something in his eyes hardened. Too late for regrets, Evelyn. And that's when I realized he wasn't the one in control anymore. Mark's key turned in the lock at 8:47 p.m. I was in the kitchen stirring a pot of soup. He'd barely started. Pathetic alibi. Smells good, he said, dropping his suitcase by the stairs. I forced a smile. Thought you'd be hungry. He kissed my cheek. His lips were chapped familiar. For one dizzying second, I thought I might vomit. Then Jason came down the stairs. Didn't know you were back, Jason said, gripping the banister. Mark grinned, clapping him on the shoulder. Surprise, you two, been keeping each other company? Loaded question. Jason didn't blink, just helping Evelyn clean out the garage. A lie so smooth it terrified me. Mark believed it. Why wouldn't he? That night in our bed, Mark reached for me. I stiffened, tired, and mumbled. He sighed, rolling away. You're always tired lately. The accusation hung between us. I stared at the ceiling, words echoing in my skull. Too late for regrets. The next week, Worcestershire. Every glance between me and Jason carried weight. Every innocent tick burned. We didn't speak about Wuthapond. We didn't have to. The unspoken truth was worse. We wanted to do it again. It happened in the laundry room. Jason cornered me as I folded towels, his voice low. You can't keep pretending I'm not you. Look at me like you're starving. I interrupted. He sees it to my hand. Shook Wef to stop. He stepped closer. Do you really want to? And God help me, I didn't. Mark started watching us, not obviously, but I noticed the way his gaze lingered when Jason laughed at my jokes, how he'd passed outside rooms we were in. He knew something was wrong. He just didn't know what. This was only the beginning, because a secrets like ours, they demand payment, and the price was coming. Do I repeat a tit phrase like a mantra in the weeks that followed, as if self-awareness could somehow absolve me, but guilt doesn't work that way. Fierce grows teeth. And Aris was about to bite back. Mark started working from home. No warning, not discussion, just an offhand comment over coffee one morning. Think I'll take meetings here this week. Miss seeing your face. His smile didn't reach his eyes. Jason froze mid-bite of toast. Our gazes locked just for a second, but it was no enough for Mark's fork to clatter against his plate. Something wrong. Fear turned to glass. Just burned me tongue. Jason lied smoothly, reaching for orange juice. You should warn people. Beef. You decide to invade. Dad joke. Deflection. Mark laughed, but his knuckles were white around his coffee mug. We developed a system. No lingering in empty rooms. No texting unless absolutely necessary. No touching, not even accidental. We were so careful, and stealth cracks showed. I forgot to delete the massages. Just once, just for an hour. That's all it took. Mark picked up my phone when it buzzed during dinner. Jason's asking if we need anything from store. Perfectly normal text, except Jason was sitting right across from Yusha's phone. Hadn't made a sound. Mark's expression didn't change as he set my phone down. Weird. Must be a delay. At night, I found my charger, accidental unplugged my phone. Dead. A warning. Jason get sloppy. A crumpled piece of paper fell from his jeans in the laundry. A receipt from the Belmont room 214, last Tuesday, the day Mark was in Chicago. That day, I told Jason we couldn't meet at the house. I burned it in the kitchen sink, watching the edges curl to ash when it around. Mark was in the doorways. Mouths like you're burning dinner against. Joke landed like a punch. Then Kamithi name Lindsay. Mark mentioned her casually over scotch. Some new junior associate at his firm. Sharp as hell. Means me of you when we first Met Icoquette on my wine, Jason's eyes, snapato mine, silent question, but Mark just kept talking, swirling his drink. Shy's been helping me with the Henderson deal, working late a lot, the unspoken hung between us, you know. I'm giving you an out, take it Jason. Cornered me in Thegarage 2 days later, we need to talk about. Lindsay, there's nothing to talk about, I hissed, stacking garden tools. Whenever used he's testing. You Jason grabbed my wrist. If you back off. No hole, no for sure, I wrenched free. Or maybe he's actually cheating. The word stasted like hypocrisy. Jason smeltered. Cruel, then we're even. I started noticing things. My car's GPS had been reset, the home security camera angle differently. Mark's laptop always closed when I entered the room. We were being hunted in our own home. It happened because of rain, sudden storm. Jason coming home soaked me, handing him a towel in the hallway. The way we both froze and the shadow moving at the top of the stairs. Mark didn't yell that worst part. He just stood there, a suitcase in hand, another business trip cut short, looking at us like we were equations. He'd finally solved how long 3 syllables that shattered my world. Just stepped forward. Dad, not you. Mark's voice could have frozen hell her. And in that moment I had to choose deny and gaslight, or confess and burn. This wasn't though. It was supposed to end, but then again, it was always going to end this way. Mark didn't throw anything, didn't slam doors, didn't even raise his voice at quiet walk. He just stood there at the top of the stairs, his grip tightening on the suitcase handle, until the left dark raked. His wedding ring caught the hallway light, a cruel reminder of what we'd all just destroyed. Jason took a step back. I didn't move at all. Mark walked down slowly, each step measured. He asked, "You a question, Evelyn?" My mouth went dry. "It's not what you don't." A single word, sharp as a blade. "Just unsurgison." Tried again. "Dad, let's talk about this. You lost the right to call me that." Mark didn't even look at him. His istid locked on me. Wow, long 3 months flinch. That's all he gave me. Then head-turned to Jason, "Get out." Jason left, not just the house. He grabbed his car keys and vanished into the night. No goodbye, no apology, just the squeal of tires on wet pavement. Mark finally looked at Morelli. Looked at me. Was it revenge? A question surprised me. What? Lindsay halad, a hollow broken sound. She doesn't exist. I made her up to see a feud care, the trap I'd walked right into. We sat at opposite ends of Thecoach, strangers. Now Mark spoke first. "Ich knew something was off for weeks, the way you'd both freeze when I entered a room," rubbed his temples. "But my own son." Jesus, Evelyn, I had no defense. "It wasn't planned." I whispered. "That makes it worse." He stood abruptly. "You want to know the kicker? I thought you were cheating with Dave from accounting. I adore IT guy monitoring your emails." Bitter chuckle. Never even considered him. Grandfather. Clock ticked in the hallway. "He's not welcome here anymore." He looked up sharply. "You'd cut off your ounce. You'd choose him over your husband." Mark countered. The silence stretched between us. Then he dropped the bomb. "Ewent, you've gone by morning, packed in a day's 20 years of marriage reduced to 2 suitcases." Mark watched from the doorway, arms crossed. "You'll hear from my lawyer." Mark save it. He turned away. The worst part, I could have forgiven an affair, but with him that's not betrayal. That's not. The front door clicked shut. "Bend me" at 5:47 a.m. Jason answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" I demanded motely. 9:05. Did you tell him it was my fault?" The question stunned me. "Does it matter?" "Yeah." His voice hardened. "Because I am not taking the fall for this." Alani call ended before I could respond. Is that in my car, outside a Starbucks, staring at my reflection in the rearview mirror. The woman looking back was a stranger. I'd lost my husband, my home, my self-respect, and for what a fleeting mint of attention from a boy who'd already moved on. The notification popped up at noon. Facebook update. Jason tagged in a photo with a blonde girl at some beach bar. Caption: "Fresh start." No mention of me, no mention of the life we destroyed. Just moving on. I threw my phone against the hotel wall. I learned truth 6 weeks after leaving. Mark shows when the divorce papers arrived along something far more damning: positive pregnancy test. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and false hope. "Based on your last cycle, you're about 8 weeks along," the doctor said, tapping her clipboard as flooded my veins. Weeks. Da math was undeniable. I called Jason 13 times over 3 days. He answered on the 14th try. "Christ, Evelyn. I'm at a tailgate. I'm pregnant." The background noise cut out abruptly. Muffled footsteps, a door. Then his voice lower. "Now Eurasier. It's mine." The question shouldn't have gutted me, but it did. "There's no scenario where it's Mark's." A long silence. "Din, get rid of it." Blick. Mark's attorney sent formal notice the next day. He was contesting our based on marital misconduct. Translation: he wanted me penniless. I showed up at his officianist. "You'd really leave me homeless?" My voice cracked. Mark barely glanced up from his desk. "You made your choices and you made yours." I slammed ultrasound photo down. "You ignored me." 4 years you don't, his fist hit the wouldn't you dare blame me for this, for the first time. I saw it, the raw hurt beneath his anger. I left without another word. It started with a Reddit thread, my stepmom for OF got pregnant. Buy me 21 MA screenshots, pred to Twitter, then TikTok my face lifted from marks. Facebook blurred but recognizable. Jason's less obscured it, aired off my phone and threw up in thematile sink. My sister arrived unannounced 2 days later, her minivan idling. Out Sitteroom 217, you're coming home Rachel said hefting my suitcase. I can't mom no sure glare could have melted steel, she still wants to help, God knows. Why I burst into tears on I-95, watching my old life disappear in the rear view my childhood home. Smelled like lemon pledged disappointment mom served tea like who. We're discussing a job loss, not a scandal, you'll stay through. Nancy, she said calmly, then adoption rackle, snorted hood, take that baby that clock ticked mom's hand covered mine, say it's Mark's ally to cover Thiessen. The family specialty Jason rang at 3:00 a.m. They kicked me out, he slurred drunk, or both my life is over, because oh phew I watched moonlight stripe the nursery wallpaper, you participated. I said softly you initiated glass hattered on his end, I was a kid, that truth landed between us, he hung up. First baby came early, a girl with just nose. I held her exactly once the social worker's pen hovered over the paperwork still sure. About adoption, outsider reporters camped by the hospital exit haunted. 5 years later Mark remarried Apathy. Nurse, they have twins. Jason works oil rigs in Texas, multiple DS, baby closed adoption, no updates ask for me. I work nights at a 24-hour dinner near my mother's house Semetimus Gusters recognize. Me most pretend they didn't this wasn't a love story. It was a cautionary tale about hunger, about exes, and about the terribly press of confusing loneliness for love. Its story serves as a brutal mirror tough consequences of unchecked disordestrating, how loneliness can warp judgment and make even the most unthinkable actions seem justifiable in the moment, yet ultimately destroy every foundation of trust, family, and self-worth. It exposes the dangerous fallacy of believing emotional voids can be filled through physical or forbidden, especially when those connections exploit power dynamics and familial bonds, revealing that such relationships are built on sand collapsing under the weight of guilt, shame, and societal judgment. The narrative underscores that betrayal isn't just an act, but a ripple effect harming not only the immediate applicants but everyone connected to them from spouses to children, to extended family, leaving scars that list. The initial thrill of rebellion it highlights the hypocrisy of showing how the protagonist initially framed her actions as a reclaiming of agency or a response to neglect, only to realize too late that she had become the architect of her own ruin, proving that victimhood self-assigned is often a flimsy disguise for accountability avoided. The story ruthlessly dissects the illusion of control, illustrating how the Stepson stanchion from willing participant to resentful accuser mirrors the inevitable power shift in such dynamics where one party inevitably seeks to minimize their culpability by reframing themselves as the exploited. It forces readers to confront the uncomfortable reality that some mistakes cannot be undone, only injured, as seen in the irreversibilities of marriage, reputation, and motherhood, each consequence more devastating than the last. The narrative rejects cheap redemption, offering no easy absolution for the protagonist's woes. Punishment isn't societal scorn alone, but the perpetual knowing of her own conscience, a life sentence of wandering. What if that no amount of time or distance can silence it? Critiques theme-adorned fascination with scandal as a spectator sportwear. Online mob sweepenize morality without introspection, reveal how public shaming often says more about the hunger for superiority than the sinner's failings. Story ultimately functions as a grimperable about the wages